The Energy Charter Treaty is a multilateral agreement signed in the 90s, which protects foreign investment in the energy supply. By protecting foreign investment in energy supply, the Energy Charter Treaty protects investment in fossil fuels. By protecting investment in fossil fuels, this means that the Energy Charter Treaty protects foreign investment in greenhouse gas emissions. After 30 years of the existence of this treaty, emissions protected by the Energy Charter Treaty are estimated at more than the remaining carbon budget for the European Union as a whole. And if this treaty continues until 2050 with the protection of fossil fuels, the emissions protected by this treaty would be equivalent to more than 1/3 of the remaining global carbon budget. What it means? It means that if this treaty stays as it is with protection of fossil fuels, this means that we will never meet our target of 1.5 degree as stated in the Paris Agreement. How does this treaty works? If you are government and you sign for the treaty and you become contracting party of this treaty, this means that this gives the right to investors from other contracting parties to the treaty, and today we have 53 contracting parties. Investors located in these 53 contracting parties could sue you as government in case you make changes in your energy law, or for example in the subsidies that you have for electricity or to fossil fuels or whatever in the energy sector. And the treaty does not require the foreign investor to go first to the national court. It does not at all require to go to national court. It's one of the options. However, the investors do not use this option. They do prefer to use the option of going to private arbitration. Why? Because if they go to the national courts, they will get a reasonable compensation, while by going to the private arbitration, they get compensations up to billion of euros. One of the most known cases in Europe is the Watenfall case, which is Swedish company suing the German government when the German government decided to phase out nuclear energy. So taxpayers of the German taxpayers money is used to compensate Vattenfall, Swedish company. So you see that within the EU, this can happen within the EU despite the treaty for the functioning of the European Union. And if fossil fuels are kept in the treaty, not only that we will increase the greenhouse gas emissions protected by the treaty, but we will also increase the share of the stranded assets in fossil fuels. They have been estimated to 2.15 billion euros by 2050 if fossil fuels are kept inside. At the same time, if it's the case of the EU countries, they have with the climate law, EU countries are trying to get out of fossil fuels. However, if you get out of fossil fuels, then our government will be sued, and we estimate the cost to be paid by the EU, the ISDS cost, the arbitration cost, not only for all countries parties to the treaty, to 1.3 trillion euros, out of which 42% would be paid by the EU taxpayers. So this treaty raises at least 4 questions. One is the protection of fossil fuels, which means protection of greenhouse gas emissions at the time of the climate emergency. The second one is the fact that this treaty uses the private arbitration to claim high compensations, which is paid by the taxpayers' money. This means that the energy transition, instead of investing in the energy transition, our government will be investing in paying for these compensations for the implementation of the climate law. And the third thing is related to the EU. This treaty allows intra-EU disputes. As I mentioned, the Watenfall case is between a Swedish investor and Germany. And this is in total contradiction with the treaty for the functioning of the European Union and other European Union rules and laws. And the fourth is the fact that this treaty is expanding to developing countries, mainly Africa and Latin America, countries with high reserves of fossil fuels, like Nigeria, for example. And what does that mean? It means that these countries, if they join the treaty, it will be the end of the Paris Agreement, because this means that we will lock the developing world in greenhouse gas at a high cost for the taxpayers, and this means we cannot mitigate climate change at all.